Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, another episode of your favorite Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer your questions live on air, live on YouTube, live on Twitch, and recorded on all of the podcast platforms. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I am the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online on Twitter, and with me, as always, answering your questions is the managing editor of Pride of Detroit, is the machine, and is at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. It's Erik Schlitt. Hi, buddy.
Hey, buddy. I like that it's your favorite Lions midweek podcast.
Yeah.
Not just Lions it's your favorite Lions podcast that's recorded on Tuesdays or Wednesdays.
We put as many qualifiers in there so we're not trying to insult any other Lions podcasts out there. But kind of an important episode today, Erik, because I don't know if gone are the days in which we do emergency podcast, but we didn't do the one this week despite there being a very mild emergency coming down the pike Monday night as two football games were being played, which still rings sacrilegious to me. But anyways, reported at this point, nothing is actually official yet, but it is reported via ESPN, who has a direct line to Jameson Williams, that Jameson Williams is indeed getting suspended for 2 games for violating the league's performance-enhancing substance policy. Before we jump into the questions, I think we should probably give our immediate reactions, knowing and putting out first that, 1, none of this is official yet. 2, we're not going to speculate on what exactly Jameson Williams did because we don't know. But obviously this is a disappointment, Erik. It's frustrating from a fan point of view. It's not going to kill the 2024 Lions, but it does raise more questions about Jameson Williams that we had hoped we had gotten by, right?
Sure. Yeah, certainly. You know, there's a list of rules. Like, it's a long list. It's expansive. It's probably exhausting to read and to absorb. But if you've been employed for 3 years now, going on into the 3rd season, you need to be aware of them. And any person who's been at their job for 3 years, it's no matter how tedious the list of rules that you have to follow is, you still have to follow them and you should know them. And I know it gets tricky if we're talking about like prescribed medicines and stuff like that. Like we don't know what what he's getting, what flagged, I guess, the suspension. It could be a variety of different things, but if it's something that's like prescribed from a doctor, you still should be going through the process to check if it's allowed by your employer. And so regardless of what it is, it really doesn't matter at this point what it is, because this is the situation that he finds himself in again. And it's easy to make a mistake, but now we've seen a couple of these mistakes, and they could all be innocent mistakes of a 23-year-old young man. I'm sure all of us at 23 have made mistakes. That
Many.
Yeah, that have prompted our employers to take action. But it's certainly disappointing as a fan. And if it was happening to more than just him, I think it would lessen the spotlight on him.
Sure.
But the problem is he's really the only guy that continues to show up in these suspension categories for the Lions. And so there is a red flag that's going to be attached to him now. And it's a mistake, and could be innocent, but at the same time, he needs to be more conscious of his actions and the consequences that come from them.
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy who's who's been under the microscope his entire Lions career, but certainly after the suspension last year, not that the injury was his fault, but the fact that the Lions hadn't gotten much production out of him through 2 years, this was such a critical year for him, and to have another mistake like this, a very, very preventable mistake. And you're right, like, the rules are tedious, and sometimes they're ever changing, right? Like, there are substances that move on and off the list all the time, but there are so many resources to protect you from that sort of thing. And, you know, how often are players saying, like, you have to pay attention to what you put in your body? Like, that is such a normal thing that everyone knows about that I don't think you can blame the rules. I don't think you can blame anything other than Jameson Williams. Like there like anytime there's big news like this, I think people tend to go to the extremes, and I'm going to try to shoot right through the middle here because one, this is Jameson Williams' fault. This isn't the rules' fault. This isn't, even if it's a slip up, like an accidental slip up, that doesn't excuse him from not knowing the rules when everyone else in the league is following the rules, or mostly everyone else in the league is following the rules. But this doesn't mean he's a bad person. This doesn't mean he's completely untrustworthy. This doesn't mean the Lions can't extend him in a couple of years. It doesn't mean that they should trade him away at the trade deadline. There has to be like a middle category here where you're just like, he needs to be better, but let's not lose faith in him after a couple of mistakes. Fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, no, I do. I think that's fair. Because he does have a lot of resources, and he has an agent who he pays money to inform him of things like this. He has team doctors that he can talk to and say, hey, this was prescribed to me by my general physician, and is this okay? Like, if that's what it is, we don't know. But anything, when you're in a sport and you're getting paid for, this type of action that he does as an athlete, there are rules of what you can put into your body and what you can't, like you said. And so you have to be conscious of that and smart and very deliberate. So yeah, I do think it's important not to overreact. I know there's going to be a faction of the fan base that's going to say, he's being put in a situation that's probably not his fault and he shouldn't be punished. And then there's going to be another faction of the fan base that says he doesn't fit the culture. And I can get both sides, but I think in reality, there's the reality is somewhere in the middle, right? Like it's a 23-year-old kid who made a mistake that he probably shouldn't make. And there's a lot of other 23-year-old kids who aren't making those mistakes, and he needs to make better choices. He'll get a consequence. He'll hopefully learn from that, and then you move on. As far as, I don't know if you want to say anything more about that, but I think as far as like how it impacts the Lions, if you want to pivot to that, I don't think it's any more significant than if you had a player who was injured and it was going to miss a couple of games. Like, they have fail safes in place for stuff like this. Like, there's a reason they didn't just sign Tim Patrick. They signed Tim Patrick and Allen Robinson.
Right.
There's right. They still have Isaiah Williams, who they really liked, sitting on the roster, who just he's a healthy scratch that they're basically like stashing. So they have options at receiver.
Khalif.
Khalif
has been growing in his role the past 2 weeks. Yeah.
Right. So you the first thing that people were saying to me is, oh no, you're going to lose the speed element in your option, or you're going to lose the speed option in your offense. What are you going to do? Khalif is one of the fastest guys in the league. Like, he's incredibly fast. And while he doesn't have the size, he's been very effective of late. Right. So, and Khalif has started for this team before 2 years ago. Right. So, and then when you want to go big, you have Allen Robinson, veteran. He's been around now with this team for a month and a half, almost right now. And so they have a lot of choices on which they can go. And then if you're like, oh, but there's a talent drop-off level. Well, guess who hasn't been used a lot this year? Sam Laporta. Well, you have other guys. You have lots of other talent options, and you have enough warning on this that you can scheme other ways to get the ball into the other plethora of playmakers that you have. So it's not ideal. And I don't think it's as big of a deal against the Titans as maybe it might be against the Packers, right? Sure. You obviously would love to have them for there, but this is it's workable. Like, they have these plans in place in case a player is missing for a game or two.
It's interesting because given the depth, the kind of depth that they have on this team, it almost feels like they would be more impacted by a Tim Patrick injury than anything else, because they have guys that can step in for Amon-Ra. They have guys that can step in for Jameson Williams' role. Now, obviously, Allen Robinson now gives them kind of a backup X option as well. But kind of before that, it was like this team had no one at the X, and they had guys who could fill in the other spots. Now, obviously, losing someone like Amon-Ra would probably be much worse than any of the other options because he's so good. But I'm with you. Like, I'm not I'm not overly concerned about what the Lions offense is going to look like for the next 2 weeks. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he only had one catch for -4 yards or whatever last week. Because listen, and this is going to kind of tie into the next question we're going to jump to here, is Jameson Williams' impact went far beyond his touches, right? It speaks to what he was doing downfield in terms of blocking. It speaks to the Jameson Williams effect that several coaches have alluded to now, that teams are playing a lot more too high and allowing them to take more underneath, which is kind of their bread and butter anyways. Khalif might not give you that as much. They might not respect Khalif as much in those deep shots, particularly because, he isn't as tall as Jameson Williams. So that's something that they are going to lose, but we've seen this offense succeed without that threat plenty. All of last year, most of the year before. They'll be okay, particularly hopefully next week. Titans do have a good defense. I don't want to overlook the Titans too much, but yeah.
This is also a defense they've seen. He's basically running the Seahawks defense, which is basically the Ravens defense. So it's that same stylistic type of play because of where the coordinator comes from. Like, he was a DB's coach with the Ravens last year. He's basically adopted McDonald's scheme. The Lions have already seen McDonald in his defense once. So they're gonna be familiar with it. They're gonna know how, they're gonna have game plans for it. It's not like they'll be able to adjust and adapt pretty quickly. I also think the conscious effort to get Khalif involved in the last 2 games, it's perfect timing. You're right. Because if he hadn't been as involved as he was the last 2 games, I think I might have a little bit more trepidation in saying that they're going to be just fine. But look, Khalif has been involved. He's been pretty impressive. And I think they have lots of options. And I mean, a genius at the offensive coordinator position certainly helps.
Yep. As for, the reason why it hasn't been announced yet, we're not going to speculate on that. We don't really know at this point. It could, maybe it gets pushed down a week or two, but the fact that ESPN has already gotten a statement out of Jameson Williams pretty much tells you that Jameson Williams has been told he's getting a 2-game suspension. And I don't recall ever that happening and then it just disappearing and turns out, oh no, we were mistaken.
Even Dan Campbell addressed it. Like, he said, oh yeah, we know it's coming. Right.
We're preparing to be without him.
Right. So the announcement hasn't come, but the Lions are already planning for it.
Yep. Okay. And they probably have a better idea of when it actually is coming, whether it will be effective this week or next or whatever. Right. Speaking of Jameson Williams, this question comes from @It's JAMO season. What happened to JAMO's targets? 20 targets for the first 2 games, but only 10 targets in the last 4 games combined. I think I touched on it mostly earlier when I talked about the Jameson Williams effect, which is teams don't want to get beat deep by Jameson Williams, so they're playing a lot of too high. They're making sure that they have their speediest guy on Jameson Williams, and like I said, the Lions will take that all day because then they can run the ball, then they can hit underneath passes. It's part of the appeal of having a Jameson Williams on your ops, making defenses pick their poison. And because Jameson Williams hit on so many deep shots in those first 3 weeks of the season, teams are saying, we're not going to let you do that anymore. And the Lions are going, okay, fine. We'll throw all these high percentage passes and Jared Goff will throw for more touchdowns and incompletions or whatever. Like, that's when you talk about how good Jared Goff has been, a huge part of that is him taking what the defense is giving him, and the defenses are giving them so much short to intermediate yardage because of Jameson Williams.
The Vikings had given up one explosive play, like pretty much the whole season, like passing wise. Like they just don't give up that many, right? Like a big 20-yard pass or something like that, right? And so it looked like it was going to be kind of a hard opportunity for Jameson to get there anyways. And I think what I wrote was, and maybe I didn't write it, maybe I just thought it, but like the best opportunity would be against cover 0. And I mean, that's the look that the Amon-Ra touchdown was in, right? And and if you look, J-Mo was wide open on that play as well. But the way that the Vikings play and the way they force you and the way they disguise their coverage with their 2 deeps and stuff, like it seemed like it was going to be a day where J-Mo was just going to have to uncover at the right time in order to get a big play. And if you look at his stats, it's kind of how it's been. It's been like a two or three nickel and dime passes, and then the one big explosive, and he's got like 70 yards for the day, and he looks great. But that was going to be much harder to do against the Vikings. So I'm not overly surprised with his production. Like you said, his blocking was really his most notable trait. I think that's really what paid off for him. But it also shows you that if you're not throwing the ball his way, you can still beat the best defense in the NFL. So it's I think it just was situational, really. The Vikings, I think, wanted to take him away, and they have no answer for now the third game in a row for either Amon-Ra or Dick or Jahmyr Gibbs.
It is pretty crazy.
Both of those guys.
That
Those guys
Amon-Ra.
they just and they should they should defeat Amon-Ra. They should be able to handle him, and they just cannot. And I don't know if it's just Amon-Ra saying, "Watch out," turns his slot merchant button on and away he goes, or if he.
Well, I think part of it is the Vikings they play so much zone, right? They match
and he
these
knows how to
blitz.
beat it.
Yeah, and he can just destroy zones.
Well, that's been his MO since he was at USC. He is a precise and efficient route run. I mean, we could go back to his Pee Wee football days to talk about his efficiency, knowing Amon-Ra. But they don't have the talent to deal with Gibbs in the open field. They can't handle St. Brown. 3 games in a row, they've had trouble with both those guys, and Ben just takes advantage.
All right, from JMO to trades, because that's the other big topic that kind of remains around Detroit, and rightfully so, right? I think it seems like it's a foregone conclusion that the Lions at some point are going to add an edge rusher. Maybe it just is assigning another poaching off a practice squad. Maybe it is a trade, but the more and more Dan Campbell talks about this possibility, it almost seems like it's just going to happen at some point. So, Next question comes from Lawrence Flynn, who asks, doesn't it make sense for the Lions to make a trade for an edge sooner, i.e. this week, instead of waiting till closer to the deadline? They can't wait to go into the Green Bay game next Sunday with the current group. What is Pascal's status? He left the Vikings game twice due to injury. At this point, we don't know anything about Pascal. He did come back and finish the game, I believe. So
correct. He played a lot too. He played like 73 or 75% of snaps.
That doesn't always mean he's going to be okay, but in general, I think there seems to be limited concern. I think he had some sort of wrap on his elbow at some point, or a bandage or whatever, so didn't seem like it was too serious. Yeah,
he never even got acknowledged by the PR team for being injured, right? Because that's how quickly he was back in the game. My guess is he'll get some light work, limited, maybe even no practice on Wednesday. And then they'll they'll amp him up. So if you see Pascal not practicing on Wednesday, don't panic. It's pretty standard if a player gets hurt in the game on Sunday that they don't practice on Wednesday. Lions do that all the time. The only time they don't is when it happens to someone like Amon-Ra or Panay, who just don't take practices off.
They refuse to take that days. But let's talk about the urgency here to get a trade done. The trade deadline is 2 weeks away from when we're recording this, November 5th, I believe. Do you feel a sense of urgency to get that done ASAP?
Yeah, I get that, because you want it. Look, we saw with Isaiah Thomas that when you get into the building, a week with the team isn't likely enough to get you on the field. Now, it's a little bit different if it's a veteran that you're bringing in. The veteran can get up quicker. If you're trading for a guy like Harold Landry, who was going to be playing at Ford Field, and let's say you just decide to cancel his flight home, you can probably get him up in a week, because Terrell Williams, the Lions defensive line coach, knows Landry, can get him up to speed, make him and help him get playable. If you're trading for
Za'Darius,
why am I blanking? Za'Darius Smith, again, a veteran who can get up to speed, who's really doing in Cleveland what he is going to be expected to do here, but you want him into room for at least a week before you're asking him to go out and play. So if you could get a deal done this week before the Titans game, you have him get acclimated a little bit, and then you can amp him up, and then you get him ready for that Green Bay game. Because I agree, that Green Bay game is really when you would love to have that piece in place, right? Yeah, certainly. Another divisional road game, right? That's a huge game. And so I do think the Lions would prefer to get it done and want to get it done as soon as they can. At the same time, if there's competition, if the teams are slow moving and they're not as much of a rush to get it because they're like, well, maybe there's still a chance.
Right.
Now the Titans and the Browns probably not, but they could be pitting teams against each other, trying to drive up the price.
Yep.
Like, so there, it could be the team that's holding the player trying to leverage a little bit more, and that could be slowing the process down as well.
I think that's a really good point. Both that teams might be holding on to hope, and that teams that know their sellers at this point are going to wait to the very end, because deadline spur action, and you'll get teams. I mean, listen, everyone knows that the lines are looking for this right now, right? They have a certain amount of leverage over the lines, knowing that the lines, they say they're not desperate. They say they're not going to overpay. They say they're not going to rush into anything. But again, everything from the play on the field to everything that Campbell is saying tells me they are going to trade for a player. That's leverage. And the closer you get to that deadline, the higher the pressure, the more the price goes up. And so that puts the lines at a little bit of a disadvantage. And so my theory here is well, not theory, because if the Lions can get a deal done this week, they'll do it. But they have said they're not going to rush into this thing. And ultimately, what matters to them more than anything else is winning in January, winning in February.
Yep.
That has to be the priority. And while, you'd love to have some guy that you trade available for both the Packers in 2 weeks and the Texans on the road right after that. Those are two big, tough games. But I'm not going to break any news here. The Lions are going to make the playoffs, whether they win or lose those two games. They're going to make the playoffs. They might not win the division, but they're going to make the playoffs. And they want to make sure they get the guy at the right price, and they're not going to rush. They're not going to act desperate. They're not going to say... Because listen, there's pressure on the other teams once we get to the deadline too, right? If you're the Cleveland Browns, do you really want Zadarius Smith on your roster after the trade deadline, knowing that your season is over? When you can, maybe get a fourth-round pick, a fifth-round pick, whatever it is. There's pressure on both sides once you get to that deadline. And so I think, and maybe, we heard the report this week that there are several teams going in on Zadarius Smith. Is that true? Are the Browns trying to push that a little bit more and create a sense of urgency? We don't know. I think the Lions and the way Brad Holmes operates, he's the kind of guy that says, let's let the dust settle a little bit and let's see what the actual price is and see if we're getting scammed a little bit here. Now, again, I'd love the trade to happen in the middle of this podcast. I'd love to get to the end of the podcast, and as soon as we hit end record, boom, Zadarius Smith is a Lion. But we also have to make sure we're looking at the bigger picture here and making sure that the Lions are getting the right deal and in the right spot in the long haul, because that is ultimately what matters for this season, is the long haul, not just the next 2 weeks.
I'm with you.
All right. Next question, sticking with trade, and we'll do this one before we get to break, comes from Phenoms4774 on Twitter. Asks, could James Houston be a viable trade piece to be used instead of additional draft compensation? His role in Detroit's scheme may be small, but I can see a number of teams he would be a better fit in.
A week ago, I said to you, I would offer the Browns Houston for Zadarius Smith straight up. I just say, we'll give you this young pass rusher who has shown explosiveness, who can fit into your, pressure-based system that you want to run. He's not working with us right now, but you've seen the talent. It's on tape. We'll offer you him. You get a young pass rusher who has some talent on a rookie contract, and we get a guy in return. Or we can give you a fifth or sixth round pick who maybe turns into a James Houston, or maybe not. At least James has a track record that you can go off of. I'd just throw that out there and say, look, James isn't fitting right now for us. Zadarius could fit for us right now, and I think it could be an easy deal. So I would think he would be in conversation, as a cherry on top of a deal, or maybe just the deal outright. Like, I know you're not going to get, like, if you're trying to make a deal with Harold Landry, you're back and forth and you're having conversations. And then maybe if you're just like, hey, we'll give you James, could be something to, help push a team over the edge type of thing.
Yeah. To me, it's really interesting to speculate what James Houston's value is on the market. Because obviously like the potential is there, but we haven't seen it in 2 years. He technically isn't on his rookie deal because he got cut. So he is not signed to be on this year. He's a restricted free agent next year. So like he can be kept around relatively cheap, but he's not. Like you have to make that deal with him.
He makes base salary. He makes 900, like that's he makes them bare minimum right now. And so like you could, that's what I was alluding to. Is not really, you're not overpaying or you're not trying to pay him $5 million.
Right.
Go ahead, no.
And I agree with like the basis of the question, right? He's going to be more valuable elsewhere than he is here. Like that. Yeah. That is almost assuredly true. And it'll probably be something that annoys Lions fan if he does get traded and then he goes and finishes the season with 6 sacks or whatever. Sure. But I mean, I think the way you put it at the end there, particularly with the Landry trade, makes sense to me. It's a cherry on top. Like if you're trading for Zadarius Smith and the price is, let's say, a 5th round pick, maybe you can get James Houston and a traditional 7th instead. Did I say traditional? A conditional 7th. Like maybe that's the price, or maybe it's a conditional 6th or whatever. And that would make sense to me. And it'd be a little bit of a bummer to turn the page on James Houston's career here, but you hear the way that they talk about him. You see him on game days not making too much of an impact. Now he did have 2 pressures this past week on a limited amount of snaps, but in general, I think we can all see where this is going with James Houston. And so if they can drop the draft capital a little bit by packaging him on a deal, yeah, I'd say go for it. All right. And I think we'll leave the trade and the Jameson Williams conversations there. When we come back, we're going to start diving more into the Lions roster and then turn the page over to Tennessee, where a quarterback is waiting, but we're not sure which one. We're going to debate which one we want to see more when we come back here on the Detroit Lions Midweek Mailbag. We'll be right back. Okay. We're in break, which means time to hang out with you beautiful live audience peoples. Let me get through alerts real quick, and then I think we had a couple questions about the fake punt. And I think maybe I want to rewatch that one with everybody, with the all-22. Okay. Because I'm of the belief that it was a good play call. And it was a good play that was just drastically poorly executed.
Yeah, the blocking was really bad.
Yes, but we'll
the lead blocking on that.
We'll get to that in a little bit. Yevitz, I see that you want a list cast, so if you want to throw that in the chat. I didn't see what the actual ask was, so you can throw that in the chat. I'll try to pay attention to it. But let me get through these alerts real quick. Drew Crookson, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. MMO, thank you for the 5 months on Twitch, says Myles Garrett. Unneeded defense of Watson plus weird helmet thing equals turd or no turd. Unneeded defense of Watson plus weird helmet thing. Well, okay. I don't think the defense of Watson is a strike on his character at all. I understand people.
Jameis? That you're talking about?
No. Deshaun Watson.
No. You're saying Jameis's defense of Watson? Is that what there's?
Myles Garrett.
I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Okay.
So Myles Garrett, so Deshaun Watson,
I missed that
he was cheered when he tore his Achilles.
Yes.
In the
saw
Cleveland.
All that.
Yes.
I listened to Jameis Winston talk about it. I did not realize Myles Garrett did.
So Myles Garrett came to his defense.
Okay.
And listen, here's what I'll say about that, because obviously I have personal thoughts about Deshaun Watson. I don't know him as a person, but I certainly know what he's accused of and all that sort of stuff. And I take all that very seriously. The bond in an NFL locker room is beyond all of that. you get to know people on a completely different level. And I'm not saying that's who Deshaun Watson is, but that's who Deshaun Watson is to Myles Garrett. And so his relationship to Deshaun Watson is much different than ours. And so I'm not going to defend what he said, defend his characterization of Deshaun Watson, but it would be, I think it's ridiculous that Myles Garrett is being panned for that, because his relationship is way different than ours. So to me, that's not a character flaw. That's being, I don't know, like being on an NFL team, going through, a physical endurance for a full year after year after year. Like that's different. So standing by a teammate is almost what I mean, that's like the opposite of a character strike for me. Like standing up for a teammate when nobody likes that man, that's a very brave and hard thing to do. Not saying it's the right thing to do, but that takes a lot. As for the swinging of the helmet thing, that's a whole different thing. He did that to Mason Rudolph, right?
Quarterback. Oh gosh, look at that, full circle.
Yeah. And listen, I know he called him a model citizen and whatever. Like, if you're going to complain about the diction of what someone is saying in a non-prepared live statement, I screw up all the time. I probably just said something that was not very smart. Like, it's hard. It's hard to come to this.
You said this was the favorite Lions podcast midweek.
That's right.
Like that right there was a screw up. I don't know why you added that midweek part in there.
Yeah. So no, I don't think Myles Garrett is a turd. I think Dan Campbell would embrace him. I don't think the Lions are going to trade for Myles Garrett, because I think it's going to cost an arm, a leg, and the rest of the body.
The contract is not really like it's all guarantees. It's all like Cleveland would be on the hook for all of it. Like,
yeah,
they would basically be paying him to not play for them. They'd be paying for first round picks. Like,
right.
It's not a good contract to trade for them, for Cleveland, not at all.
I also want to address this because I know Lions fans are frustrated about it, and understandably so. The whole like Jordan Addison, why hasn't Jordan Addison been suspended yet? Or the NFL didn't suspend Jordan Addison. I think the more correct way to say that is that Jordan Addison has not been suspended yet. He hasn't had his day in court yet. I heard
correct
last week. I think it even got pushed back. It was supposed to happen in October. Now I think it's in November or December. It's gonna come.
If he has a good lawyer, that's not coming until February when they're out of the playoffs.
Right. So, but like my answer to the people that are frustrated about Jordan Addison is it's coming. It's either coming this year or it's coming next year. I know y'all probably want it to happen this year, given where the Vikings are at, and certainly understandable. And you like the legal process to move quicker than that, but unfortunately, a violation of the NFL rules moves very quickly. A violation of this nation's rules tends to be a very slow process. And typically, a punishment from the NFL doesn't come before that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to rule. NFL isn't going to make a decision until the courts do.
Yeah. So that's where that is. Let me get through some more alerts here because I'm jumping around a little bit. David Reinfert, thank you for the 37 months, says, I live in Breed to the Detroit Lions. Was that a speech-to-text mistake, or...
No.
That said breed, not breathe.
Maybe they have a kennel.
Maybe. Drew Falcon, thank you for the 20 months this month. Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to take the bait, Drew Falcon. It smells like Up Dog in here.
What's up, dog?
I don't know what's up. What's up with you? J-Man Jr., 40 months subscribed to the channel. Lamans Builder, 20 months, says, Jamie, stop with the drama. Is that a quote from something? It must be a quote from something.
Or maybe there's someone named Jamie that was saying something in the chat.
Maybe. J-Dubs, 44 months, says 44, the number of people... I'm sorry. 44, the number of points I expect the Lions to score. The Titans have a good defense, but I'm going to keep saying that until I convince myself that everything's going to be okay. How now, Brown Cow? 19 months says, young hot take. Well, I don't know what you're saying here. Young hot take. Jesus H. Fuego. Mr. Nando's with a rando. Mikhail going off. The Jovert boss. MC Lickle Gungo P. What am I saying? Did I just say something bad? What are you talking about?
You're asking me.
All right. I don't know.
Hey, fun fact about the whole 44 points thing.
Uh-huh.
The Titans defense only allows 272.2 yards per game. That's number 1 in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They also allow 24 points a game to be scored on them, 22nd in the NFL. Very interesting defense because there's certain things that they like thrive at. And then it's like, but wait a minute, this thing that should go hand in hand with them is like on the opposite end of the spectrum, right?
But I also think if your defense is
holding,
exactly. I was gonna say if your defense is holding the other team to little yards but a lot of points, your offense is probably either turning the ball over, punting on 3 and outs where they're giving up good field position or something like that. I think I saw today. I was doing the on paper charts. And if I'm not mistaken, they haven't given up over 200 yards passing to more than a single team. I think literally only one team has thrown for more than 200 yards passing against them.
They give up 166.7 yards per game, 3rd best in the NFL.
Yeah.
105 yards on the ground, 8th best in the NFL.
I'll give you a little on-paper preview, y'all.
Yet, they give up 24 points.
Also,
on average.
Something that I'll certainly point out in on paper, strength of opponent matters, right? Their passing offenses they've played, the Bears, the Jets, the Packers, the Dolphins without Tua, the Colts, and then the Bills.
So two offenses.
The Packers and the Bills?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the yards per game passing, no one has averaged more than 230 yards passing per game of these offenses.
I didn't see you had that up. Is it the Packers? Oh, the Jets threw for him. I can't see. It's like
is it too small?
For me, I'm old though.
So the Bills are the only team that have thrown for over 200 last week. They threw for 315 and 116 passer rating. So
yeah, I think this.
Look at this.
I think the Lions are set up. I think the Lions are set up to pass on them.
They haven't thrown for more than 204 net passing yards this season.
Cool.
They're bad.
I'll take the over. I'm taking the over on passing game this week.
Oh, was it? That was also not a Jordan Love game. I think you're right.
Oh, even better. Even better.
Hence the 120 passer rating, right? If Jordan Love was in the game, probably wouldn't be that high.
Anyways. It's an interesting defense because they're I think their run defense shows up.
Yeah.
And their pass defense is suspect.
I agree.
Like it doesn't match the statistics.
I agree.
And it's interesting. What makes it even like more interesting with this is that when you look at like the Seahawks, like because that's again, I started looking back at like how they kind of compare.
Right.
They have a lot of the same traits. Like they don't blitz a lot. They rotate a lot of guys. They don't stack the box. And like with the Seahawks, they didn't stack the box, and so you could run on them. And with these guys, they don't stack the box, but it's hard to run on them.
Yeah.
And so that's
might be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, if you're an established the run team and they're good at stopping the run, like that's they're gonna have pieces in place. Again, the thing is I have zero doubts that Ben Johnson is going to just be like, yeah, looks like our run game will just be like bubble screens and quick passes and.
Uh-oh. Are you going to throw it 55 times again, Erik? That's the one game they lost. They decided to throw to set up the run.
No, I don't think 55 times is what they're going to do, but I do think, there's more than one way to skin a cat here.
When I started those charts today, the thing that really stuck out to me more than anything was this team is 1-5 with that schedule. It's an easy schedule. It was not an impressive array of opponents. Bears, Jets, Packers, Dolphins, Colts, Bills. Like, I understand the Bears are better than we thought, but this was the Bears in week 1 before their offense had gotten it together. It's the Packers without Jordan Love. It's the Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa. They've had a very easy schedule and have won a single game. I will say this. I think this is a tougher matchup than the Cowboys. I do. The Cowboys were a mess, and I do. Listen, the reason I think that
Cowboys were a lot scarier on offense, though.
I guess
just punch them in the face.
But to me, it was always a strength versus weakness matchup. The Cowboys couldn't stop the run; they couldn't run the ball. That alone is such a heavy favor to what Detroit wants to do that they never had a chance. The Titans can run the ball a little bit; they can stop the run a little bit. That's going to force the Lions out of their comfort zone a little bit. The problem is, like, they can't do anything else. Like, but that's the thing. Like, I think they can't pass the ball, but I think the most suspect part of the Lions offense or Lions team is their pass defense. So to me, it's like a strength for strength, weakness versus weakness. Now the Lions are a lot stronger than the Titans are strong, and they're a lot less weak than the Titans are weak. But that's what I mean. Like, there isn't this incongruent matchup, in my opinion.
Titans offense is terrible.
They're
really not that good. Their run offense, rushing yards per game, 21st. Rushing plays that go over 10 yards, they're 21st in the NFL in both those categories. They're either between 25th and 31st or 32nd in yards per game, offense, EPA, passing yards per game, pressures allowed, pressure percentage allowed, yak, sacks, sack percentage.
Pass. All that is pass. That's what I'm saying. They're terrible at passing the ball.
Teams don't even blitz them, and they still getting home.
They have played a lot of really good pass defenses.
And
we'll say that.
yards before contact. They are the worst team in the NFL in yards before contact. Pollard at one point was getting hit in the backfield on half of his carries. Like, they're the worst. Teams aren't even stacking the boxes on them, and they're still stuffing these guys up front. And so while their running game is good, it's only good if they can get off the line of scrimmage.
Sure.
And if they can't get off the line of scrimmage, everything else is in the bottom.
But listen, the Lions
6 or 7 in the league.
Lions run defense looked a little suspect in 2 of the last 3 weeks.
They're still top 15 as opposed to bottom 7.
Sure. But this is what I'm saying though.
Everything.
Like, relatively speaking, there is no blowout matchup like there was against the Cowboys. That's all I'm saying.
Do you know what?
When it comes to the Lions,
do you know what the Lions special teams DVOA is?
I do. It's like 7th,
8th. Do you know what the Titans is?
I do. It's 32nd.
32nd.
Yeah,
that's a blowout advantage.
Okay, but it's special teams.
There's a lot of Lions pass defense is 5th. Their pass offense is 29th. That's a huge advantage.
I don't buy the Lions pass defense DVOA should be. I don't think that's where they.
It's because they pick off the ball.
Yes,
the Lions,
correct.
The Lions defense. A bit of a bold statement. Lions defense might outscore the Titans offense.
That's true. You know what I learned today, and I hadn't realized, and maybe everyone already knows this. The Lions have 8 interceptions as a team. the entirety of that is coming from 2 players. There are only 2 players on the Detroit Lions' entire roster who have interceptions, and it's the safeties, and they've split 4 and 4.
And Kirby picks everything off in one end zone, and Brian just does everything else. They're also they're both tied for the second most interceptions in the league as
Agreed.
well. So
yeah, but like, I'd like to see someone else get involved. That's what I'm saying. I know part of what the Lions do is literally funneling the ball to their safeties. I understand.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not trying to wet blanket here, but I don't think the Lions, and I know the Lions won't, but I don't think Lions fans should dismiss the Titans completely.
No. They got good run defense.
But my entire point was not the Lions are going to lose to the Titans. It's they are a tougher matchup than the Cowboys. This is that I'm honestly that says more about the Cowboys.
All right, I don't agree with that, but
they were leading the Bills at halftime last week.
Yeah. The Bills may have trap gamed them. I don't know. I know a lot of people are worried about this being a trap game for Lions, but I think, Lions shouldn't have a trap game at this point. Like, they're back at home, and they're going to be amped up. So
KJ, I know I'm guilty of doing that in the past, guarding my emotions and telling you I'm being sensible. I understand I do that. This is not that. Go back to my Cowboys preview where I'm just like, this is a ginormous, like, if we were deeper into the season, I'd give this a +5 instead of a +3. The only reason I'm not giving it a +5 is because sample sizes are so small. I thought that was a blowout matchup. I did. I don't see it quite that way against the Titans. I don't.
Okay.
I still might end up picking them by 2 scores, but my confidence level in that Cowboys game, other than like weird, crazy things happened in AT&T Stadium, like that irrational thought, I was pretty confident going into that week. I'll still be confident the Lions win this game, but I think it just might be closer. I mean, not that it takes anything to be closer than 47-9, but I just think it's a closer matchup. We don't know who's going to start yet. I believe the latest was week to week with Will Levis.
Very interesting situation for those who don't know. And I don't know if we have a question about this for the main show or not, but
we did. Well, the question that we're going to answer. Should we save it? Maybe the question that we're going to answer during the show is which one would we rather start?
Okay. Well, okay. So Levis gets hurt in week 4.
Yep.
Then Titans put in Rudolph.
Yep. In the middle of the game. Or early in the game.
And they win.
Mm-hmm.
So then they go back to Levis and they lose. And then they now say, oh no, he's still hurt.
He's still hurt.
Oh, he's still hurt. So now we're going to play Rudolph again. And they're like, no, really, he's hurt. He's hurt. I swear. It's bothering him. And so now Rudolph starts and they lose anyways again. And so I don't know what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. But it's a very weird situation.
Yeah.
To be like, he was healthy enough to play, yet not healthy enough to play the week after. Like, and the backup quarterback wins you your only game. And
we need some tinfoil hats in the chat. This is very much a tinfoil hat situation. Yevitz, I forgot to look. So if you're still in the chat, I did not see your list cast request. In the meantime, let me get to a couple more alerts. Then I know there's some questions still in the chat that I'd like to get to as well. So Madi2, how do you think of the 36 months, 3 years, says 4 Twitch babies in 3 years, going to LA, Anaheim in a few weeks for a Red Wings road trip. Any suggestions on food activities? I've not spent a ton of time in Anaheim. I have gone to a Ducks game, but it's usually just a drive. When I was living in LA, it was mostly just a drive down to Anaheim and back. If you're a fan of ramen, I would suggest Daikokuya in West LA. It's fantastic. It's fast. It's a little small dinky place in I think it's Koreatown. No, that's not right. It might be, but anyways. Go to Daikokuya. I'll write it in the chat. Daikokuya. I think that's how you spell it. It's delicious. That entire strip of restaurants is very nice. There's a cool ice cream place there too. But that'd be my suggestion. MJ Kimball, 48 months subscribed to the channel, says 48 points versus the Titans. That'd be something.
That's going to be hard. Be fun, though.
And then Zero Slub, thank you for the 11 months. That just says yo. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not caught up. I hadn't scrolled up. Erik, 8504 with the 4 months subscribed channel, says Eric's with a K rule the day. Thanks for all the awesome content, guys. Rise the Beast, another $5 super chat. Shout out to Rise the Beast on YouTube. Always coming through with the super chat. Says, per NFC North news on X, JMO said he took a hit of Galaxy gas pregame thinking it was oxygen. Stop. I don't know what NFC North news on X is. Stop. I don't know if you're being sarcastic. Let's not spread rumors about what JMO didn't do. I couldn't tell.
It felt like it.
Jamich, thank you for the 13 months subscribed on Twitch. Dr. Dunlap, 25 months. Justin Singer, thank you for the 33 months. Wyvel, our good friend John Whitaker, 32 months subscribed to the channel. Nap Dance Queen always makes me laugh. 22 months subscribed to the channel, says the whole fam is headed up to Detroit for the Titans game. Can't wait for y'all's breakdown on the QBs because that was going to be my question for the mailbag. Perfect. We'll get to it. JT Sam 23 bits says thoughts on the Vikings remaining schedule versus the Lions remaining schedule. And then 1 bit from Bayad says Mason Rudolph once lost his job to a man named Duck. And then Duckline coming in with the 22 months says, I don't know about you. Or do you want me to sing it? Sing it? I don't know about you.
No, I said no.
Oh, sorry.
No.
But I'm feeling 22. I mean, you probably know that song better than I do. I don't listen to her as much, but I bet it's always on in the Schlitt household.
Yeah, I don't control the music.
Yeah. Yevitz does have our list cast saying, visiting Michigan this weekend, going to the game, my second at Ford Field, first since 2017 against the Browns. List cast game day advice, parking places to hang out or eat before or after the game, in stadium stuff, etc. Slows is obviously a classic, I think, on the way to the stadium. Pretty close by. If you like barbecue, it's pretty dang good. I would say lives up to the expectation, lives up to the billing. Sweetwater Wings is something that I think all of Pride of Detroit endorses.
There's a barbecue place right by Greektown too. That's really good as well. I'm blanking on the name of it right now. But if you're in town and you are like headed over the casino, there's a barbecue place right next door to the casino. That's pretty sensational.
I would say in general, if you haven't been to God, what's the courtyardish place by the parking structure? What's that whole place called? Park where they do the Campus Martius. Yeah, I think Campus Martius is just a beautiful place to walk around if the weather continues to be as good as it is right now. You know, I would say that's a good place to hang out before the game. If you're into the tailgating, I don't think anything beats Eastern Market.
Seems to be the place.
Yeah, you can walk through there. Trying to think, anything you would recommend in the stadium?
Don't they have a
power hour? Is that what you're gonna say?
No, I was gonna say they have a I'm blanking on it now. They have a there's a if you like, what's the Mexican place that they did for us a couple weeks ago?
Oh God.
It's a local Mexican restaurant that they added a just
Yeah,
added like a oh man, Justin was raving about it.
I forgot. I don't
Man,
know.
I'm so bad at these names because I'm so focused on doing what I'm supposed to do. Um,
I love football so much I can't remember the names of restaurants.
no, well, my priorities are all out of whack. Um, but they have some local establishments that have
Hmm.
places
Inside, yeah.
inside Ford Field. And so like they're gonna have their generic stuff and their like normal like food, available. But if you can do the local stuff, it tends to be a little
Yeah.
bit elevated.
Um, someone in the YouTube chat, Mike the Marine, says good Bloody Mary in the stadium. But like if you want to get in early, they do have pretty good food and drink specials. Unfortunately, we didn't get the whole like test out this year's Ford Field food. We didn't get that event this year. I never
Yeah,
really
not
asked why.
Last couple we haven't.
no, we did it. We did it the year before.
Really?
Hmm.
I don't recall that. Oh,
You weren't
okay.
there. I'm not sure why you weren't there.
Probably happened on like a weekday at like 4 o'clock or something.
Yeah. Um. Okay, I want to address this because I've seen a couple people try to like. I understand why you're skeptical since the JMO news hasn't been official yet. But D-Man, and I'm not trying to pick on you, I just want to explain. He says, why do we believe some random ESPN guy got a response from JMO and no one else has had any information about it since this suspect news broke last night? Even the coach says if he's suspended. So Erik Woodyard is the Lions ESPN reporter. If you missed it, he wrote a very long, good article about Jameson Williams' upbringing.
He spent a lot of time with him.
Yes.
They have a relationship.
He spent a lot of time working that relationship. And so the reason he got the story is because he knows Jameson Williams really, really well. It is not just a random ESPN guy. This is someone who spent months upon months upon months with him over the past really year. Mm-hmm. So there is no reason to doubt this report from Woodyard. He's solid as a rock. He's certainly not going to make up a quote from Jameson Williams and risk his entire career over it. It's solid information. I mean, if you wanted to like hold on to hope, maybe Jameson Williams jumped the gun in telling someone about it, but that seems very, very unlikely to me. Extremely unlikely. and that wouldn't be on Woodyard either. That's I mean, if you have a player telling you I'm suspended 2 games for whatever, that's a pretty solid source. And I'm not, and who knows, like Woodyard might have more beyond that, right? So I would not even consider questioning the reporting skills there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to find the restaurant. Couldn't find it. I don't know why I'm struggling here.
Damian Smith, 5-pound super chat on YouTube says, hey, say hypothetically the Lions got a premier edge rusher. How would they work opposite Hutch when he gets back? Thanks for all your work. I mean, I think he takes on the role.
Marcus Davenport's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes. Yeah.
And I think maybe in the long term you're hoping Josh Pascal grows into that role as a starter. Well, he's got for now a 2-3 game. And listen, I think he's done a pretty darn good job.
He's got a lot more than that because he's going to be a starter regardless.
I guess that is true. He's got an audition for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
yeah, I think Josh has always been used or viewed as kind of a important rotational piece, because he can move inside out. He can do a lot of different things, and that becomes it's like Levi. Levi's not a starter, but he moves all over the place and he plays starter level snaps. Like those are important players in a championship level team, and so You need that. You need those guys on your roster beyond your just starting four. If you look at the defensive lines of the teams that have gone deep into the playoffs or into the Super Bowl, they often will have like a first round pick sometimes coming off the bench,
Right.
right? In the rotation, because you have to have depth in order to execute your defensive line plan. Um, and so I think Pascal's, it would be just like with Davenport. It's you have Davenport, and then you have the guy who's going to supplement him, who's also going to be flexible, and then Aiden Mann's the other side in a freakish way where he never leaves the field. So they're going to need another edge rusher next year, and it could be Davenport, it could be a guy they trade for, it could be a guy they acquire, it could be a guy they draft, and they might get two because they're a little gun shy about the injuries and stuff. Like there's lots of ways that they can go after this, and it seems like when you start evaluating where the empty pieces are or where the questionable pieces are, edge depth is number one, and I don't know if there's anything else really close to it as at second right now.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe guard, your future starting guards. That's going to be up there.
I was going to say both, right?
Right. But as far as like for next year, edge is going to be a massive priority. And so if you can get ahead of it, awesome.
Phoenix Knight, yeah, I think so. A couple more JMO questions are coming in. Will his practice status tomorrow give us any clues on the judgment? Yeah, like I think one of the first questions Dan Campbell is going to get tomorrow is Jameson Williams here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We won't really know until we get there. Is it possible that he can still play in the Titans game? I suppose. It seems very odd to me that he would test positive for a banned substance and then play for a week. So I understand the timing is weird. Are you getting clowned by a family member right now?
No, my Georgia is obsessed with me right now, and she keeps coming in. She keeps coming in. She just keeps coming. Like she's come in like 4 times.
But yeah, like
sorry.
I was just gonna say I know everyone is confused, and I unfortunately I don't think either of us have the answer why an official ruling hasn't come down yet. Part of it might be just like these things usually come down on Friday, but I don't know. I don't know. Like it doesn't quite make sense to me. I wish I had answers for you guys in terms of why it hasn't become official at this point. But I think the take home message here is everyone expects it to come down.
I wonder if the league is going to put it on the Lions to announce it. Like, or you know what I mean? Like maybe the Lions are like, we'll announce that he's suspended. And when do the Lions do that? They announce it like
Saturday?
right when you no, but I'm saying right when you guys like go to practice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So
that's when they usually announce their roster moves. Of course they announce them today, but
right. So like it could be that the league's like, we're just not going to announce it. Lions, you can announce it, and maybe the Lions are just waiting until tomorrow to announce it.
The NFL announced the suspension today.
Oh well, I don't know then. Maybe
I think that's what's getting people even more confused, right? There was a 6-game suspension for, I don't remember what team it was.
Oh, okay.
Totally contending team, but the Commanders. There it is. Hard 6 is talking about that. I'm right there with everyone that's like this. The timing of this is confusing, and I don't know why it hasn't been announced yet. And who knows? Like maybe there is something. Maybe it was a false positive, or I don't know. Like I doubt it. Again, I doubt it. If Dan Campbell is expecting the suspension to come down, and JMO is saying got to take this one on the chin, I very much think it's going to get handed down. I just don't have an answer for you why it hasn't yet. Nick the Greek, 47 months subscribed to the channel, says the thing about 47 months is that it's almost 4 years, which includes a year of the Matt Patricia era. It also bridges the gap between when I was childless with unlimited money, and now when I have unlimited daycare germs. I bet you know a little bit about that.
Yes.
Joshua Mercer, 100 bits, says, so annoying. Which substance was he using? Damn it, tell us.
It don't matter. It really doesn't.
It doesn't matter. Like, I get the only thing that would raise more red flags is if it was a masking substance.
The funniest one would be if it was a diuretic. Like if he was like, I didn't realize, but like this is a 23-year-old too. So like, I don't know how many 23-year-olds that would be.
I ate too much cheese.
Yeah, I gotta get my diuretic. But that would be the funniest one. But I don't know. I mean, because again, that's considered a masking agent. If you're
right,
like maybe he has I don't know, maybe he has a blockage. And that was the problem. I don't know.
Why are we talking about Jameson Williams' colon right now?
Because that's the ridiculousness of where this could go. Like this could be something ridiculous. Like he could have he might get in front of the podium in 2 weeks and be like, had to poop. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Like
all right, we're moving on.
Maybe he only weighs 110
we're moving
pounds
on. Stop it.
He has.
No. It wasn't, the only thing we can be certain of is it wasn't anabolic steroids, because anabolic steroids come with a 6-month suspension, a 6-game suspension. Correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like that was that was the initial thing that had a few people questioning Woodyard. It was,
right.
Why is it only 2? It doesn't make any sense. Like, it does if you know what the rule book is, right?
And,
you know what I mean?
I'm not going to act like I knew that right off the bat, but like it doesn't take long to Google search that.
It took you 30 seconds before you looked it up and had a quote. You know what I mean? So like, it's. Yeah.
I know what you want to say, and I'm going to stop you from actually saying it.
There's one person who doesn't like. I feel pretty comfortable saying he doesn't research anything to say that he probably wasn't going to research whether or not Woodyard was legitimate.
I don't know. He strikes me as a do your own research kind of guy.
He might do his own research, but I don't think he knows how. Like he couldn't even figure out how to stop bumping into me.
Okay, all right. We're moving on. Justin saying they give the 32 months, says LFG. One Pride 0427 just gifted 5 subs to our channel. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for that. Nick the Greek 100 bits says, is it true that JMO was huffing deer antler spray? No. Nope. Another 100 bits from Nick the Greek says, did someone is it adulterate some of JMO's leaf and bud, the Mark Savaya collection? That one is over my head, Nick. Sorry. Another 100 bits from Nick says, everyone who eats a Coney dog at 3 a.m. at Leo's Coney Island winds up with either a stimulant or diuretic in their system.
That's funny. Well done.
Bayad 1 bit says, is JMO giving the lines a break on his extension by driving down the price? I mean, kind of. Nick the Greek, another 100 bits says JMO went on the lockdown line. I don't want to slam other podcast. No, just know that Nick the Greek made a Blue Chew joke, as he is wont to do. All right, we're caught up on alerts. Should we get back into the show?
Oh, sure. Hold on. Let me get comfortable again.
I will say that no one picked up on who you were talking about.
That's fine. I got big issues with him, so it's all right. I saw some people say it was personal to me. That I dislike him?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay. So only I know. Anyways.
No. This dude.
we don't need to get into
the lack of personal space is alarming.
Let's look at the fake punt before we move on, because we did get a couple questions about that. And I don't know. I think if you haven't seen the all 22 of it yet, I think it's interesting enough to give it a second thought on. Listen, if you're not behind the actual move of doing it that early in the game in that situation, nothing's going to convince you otherwise. But I do think it's worth revisiting and considering like maybe that was the right call, but not the right personnel to do it. Because that's kind of my takeaway. And everyone should agree with me, is what I'm trying to say.
All right. Well, let's test it out.
Oops, that's not what I want. I know you guys can't see. Give me a second. There we go. All right. So one of the common complaints about this play was sending Vaki in motion. The concern being that it tipped off the play, which understandable criticism of the play. Why else would he be moving like this? It must be a fake. But here's the thing. The lines have numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 guys if you include Hogan Hatton to 1, 2, 3 guys. This is what they're seeing that are like, this should work. We have the trigger to say, okay, this is the play that we have called. Let's do it rather than this is the wrong look. Let's just punt it. The problem is, even now, like it still looks really good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. 1, 2, 3 guys above the hashes right now. You only have 3 Vikings defenders above the top half or below the top hash. And you have all these guys. The problem is all 3 of these guys are, for whatever reason, keyed in on this one guy. No one kicks outside. No one goes to the second level. No one even takes his backside defender. And so, like, they are all free. Edge. Again, this guy's still free. Now, I think the end zone angle highlights it even more. Oh, God, I wish it was the other angle. I've seen the other angle. But, like...
So Craig, just back up a tick.
Yeah.
So Craig is the farthest guy
Right.
outside.
Yep.
He needs to hit 6. Unless they're trying to play 30, 54, 11 with their guys, which it could be. And then it's just like they're going to force 6 in order to force 6 to make a decision on Reeves, Maben, or Vaki.
Right.
If that's their plan, then Craig hits 30 and that's fine. But then Malcolm has to climb to 54.
Right.
And that would leave Nowaski taking 11.
I think that that's what he's trying to do. That's what Malcolm's trying to do. And this is where I think the motion plays off into a detriment. Like 54 has this red already, right? Like you can see the way he's moving. He has this red already, which is going to make Malcolm's life difficult. And indeed it does. Like he can't get there. There's no reasonable way for him to get there. That said, if you have a better guy with the ball in his hands, what does he do right now, Erik?
Well,
cut
he could have gone. He could have gone right up off of Jack Campbell there.
Right there.
What I don't understand is why Nowaski's chasing 54. If that was Malcolm's guy, then Nowaski shouldn't be chasing 54. And
True.
if he's supposed to chase 54, why are you double teaming 30 and leaving 6 free? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like either Malcolm or Craig made a mistake on who they picked up. And if Nowaski's having to reach 54, that's really hard.
Yeah. I mean, look, all 3 of these guys are on 30 right now. Now, Malcolm eventually was trying to get to 54, and I think that's what Nowaski is trying to do now. But
yeah, Malcolm needs to be blocking back, but he misses, and then Jack misses too, doesn't he?
But like even now, like now he's thinking about cutting back, but like this is still open. If he had cut back 2 seconds, a half second earlier, there is still a lane to at least get to the 35. I don't know what they needed to get it to. I think it's even further than that. But
it was like 7 yards. Yeah, they're not even to the line of scrimmage yet.
This is what, the 25? So they're at the 32. I think they might need to get to the 40, which would make sense because it was probably a touchback. So they need to get here. Whoops. Didn't mean to click on the timeline there, but I mean, could he get to the 40 here if he cuts up field? Maybe.
He'd have to
probably.
run over 20, whoever that number is.
He'd have to beat this. Like, if he cuts this way, this is the defender he probably has to beat. I think he can get there before this guy becomes a factor. But listen, I think Jeff Schwartz put it best. This was a good look to run this play, but you are asking a lot of players to do stuff that they're not used to doing.
Mm-hmm.
All these, like, how often is Malcolm Rodriguez blocking? How often is Trevor Nowaski blocking? How often is Craig Reynolds blocking? How often is Jalen Reeves-Maybin reading his keys and making cuts?
Yeah.
If
it was Vaki, you know what I mean, in the PR in the PP position, instead of Reeves-Maybin, like,
there's a better chance of succeeding, right?
Yeah, but like, you can't switch them out for one player. You give it away then too, right? So,
now the reason why Vaki is in motion is yes is the answer to your question, Joshua Mercer. This is a read option, or this is just a straight option. This is an option play. He very much tries to pitch it here at the very end, or at least tries to fake it.
Waited too long.
Yeah. And even if he did, it's not going to succeed, right? Like, if he pitches it right now,
Nowaski couldn't get to his guy, yeah.
6 and 54 are going to stop him. But yeah, that is the whole reason the guy's in motion. I still think this play had a chance of working, but I don't think we're ever going to see it again.
Can you go back to the wide set?
The other angle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I want to watch the top of the screen and see how that plays.
Let's slow it down.
I want to watch the Gunners. What happens with the Gunners? Nothing. They stay in coverage. Okay. Because I'm saying this, the spin-off of this is now snap it to Jack Fox and throw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You put Vaki in motion, go to Fox, and let Fox wing it to one of those guys.
Or if, I don't know if Jalen Reeves maybe can throw the ball, but like, you snap it directly to him.
We've seen him. We've seen him throw it before. It was not good.
Oh, that's right. And then, like, he plants his foot here and then throws it back to a defender in the flats up top. If you get someone you can trust. Now, I'll say this. I don't love Jalen Reeves-Maybin, the ball in Jalen Reeves-Maybin's hand. Like, he's converted maybe one fake punt before. Mm-hmm. It was that last year one against the Chiefs where, like, it was 4th and 2 and he got exactly 2 yards. I think this is where they miss CJ Moore. I would like to maybe see Vaki in that role instead. But I mean, Jalen Reeves-Maybin is probably pretty darn good at that role, that traditional role of personal protector, right? Like, as a last line of defense.
It's an incredibly important role,
right?
That goes beyond just the 4 or 5 trick plays they'll run a year.
Anyways, I thought it would be important or interesting to look at that. That's not the right view either. All right, let's get back into the mailbag. Can we do my list guess after the next segment? I don't want to derail the show. Sure. I did not even see your request, or did I? Did I acknowledge it? I don't remember. But yeah, let's save it, McVay. And then, let's get into it. It's already 9 o'clock. Jesus. All right. Let's get back to it. Welcome back to the Midweek Mailbag here on your Pride of Detroit podcast feed. Week 8 as we head into Titans week. We have put the JMO news behind us. We have put any sort of trade speculation behind us. Let's talk more about the team as is right now. And I feel like this question comes up at least once every year, and I want to address it. Unfortunately, I didn't read this guy's Twitter account before I put it in here. So I'm just going to call you. No, I'm going to say it. Bustinut Johnson asks, has Decker fallen off? Should we be worried long term? Feel like he's had more down games than up so far, but haven't really looked at the numbers. Again, I feel like this is something we hear every week or every year. At some point, Taylor Decker has a down game, and it's, here comes Father Time to take our Taylor Decker away. What are your thoughts? I mean, I think we can both agree that was not his best game against the Vikings. I think we can also say Jonathan Grenard is a very good player, and the Vikings present a lot of issues when it comes to pressure packages. And I think it's also probably say Taylor Decker is not in his best years anymore. But I guess could you give me a level of concern, however you want to, 1 to 10 or however you want to quantify it?
My level of concern is pretty low. I would say he is coming off maybe his worst game under this regime. Okay. So we're talking like 3.5 years.
Sure.
He allowed 6 pressures per PFF. He has not allowed 6 pressures since Dan Campbell took over as coach. Like statistically, his worst game.
Yeah.
He's been put out on an island a lot more recently.
Sure.
They've been throwing tight ends into formations or shifting them around or using them in the backfield. And so I think Decker's been kind of solo a little bit more of late. He had 0 pressures against Dallas. Like he was great against Dallas, but he's only had 7 pressures in the first 4 games, and then he allowed 6 against the Vikings. So
yeah. Well, he had 7 pressures allowed the entire season going into the Vikings game.
Correct. And then allowed 6 in the Vikings game. So yeah, it was a tough game for him. And I think his running, his run blocking maybe hasn't been as great either, but his pass blocking was definitely not as good as we've seen him play in the past. So again, my level of concern is not that high because he's a veteran who's still just 30. He's got a lot of good years left in him. And I know, he's for this team, 30's like, oh no.
Right.
But I think he had a tough game. He had a tough assignment against a team that disguises blitzes and are exotic with where they bring pressure. And it's a tough assignment. The only player that didn't really make a mistake on the offensive line was Frank Ragnow.
Right.
And that's it, right?
That checks out.
And Frank was terrific. So I'm not concerned yet. And I know there's people that are.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, offensive line is one of those things where you typically only see them if it's a mistake that they make, or if they're just like freaks of nature, like Panay, and you start watching for him all the time. Right. Like, but for Decker, if you don't see or hear from Decker, 95% of the time, and then he gives up a sack, people are going to look at that and be like, oh, he's terrible, a terrible game. And I don't know if that's maybe as true as we might see just watching these games live.
Now, okay, I'm with you. My overall concern level is relatively low. There are some things to point out though that are on, I guess you could say, in a concerning trend, right? He's given up 4 sacks already this season. The most he's ever given up is 8 in a season. That was last year. So his worst career year in terms of sacks allowed was last year. He's currently on pace to have a worse year. And it's not like all of those came in one game. According to PFF, he's allowed 4 sacks, all in separate games. So in 4 of 6 games, he's allowed a sack. It's obviously not a great trend. In terms of pressures he's allowed, he's currently at 13, as we referenced before. That's not on pace to set his most ever, but last year was the most ever. I'm sorry. Last year was the most since his rookie season. His PFF pass blocking grade is currently a career low at 71.4, which is also still not very bad. It's above average. So Is there a concerning trend towards Taylor Decker's career? Yeah, he's 30 years old. He's not going to get better at this point in his career. Is he still playing at an above average left tackle level? Yes, he is. And that's all that really matters. Now, the one blindside hit that Jared Goff took was scary and bad, and they were lucky it didn't result in a turnover. But how many times has that happened to Taylor Decker in the past couple of years, where he just gets clean beat off the line and it results in a blindside hit of Jared Goff that results in a fumbled ball? Like that to me, that's not happening a lot. And so my concern level is like 3 out of 10, 3.5 out of 10 maybe. He's not as good as he once was, but he is still an above average left tackle and a key part to this offense.
I think he's had games this year that have been really good though. So sure. That's I think what gives me confidence is that there've been a couple of games this year where he's been like, oh look, he looks better than he's been in a while. So sure. I just think he's in a little bit of a rough patch.
Now, against Dallas, they didn't have Micah Parsons. Against Seattle, they didn't have Boye Mafe and a list of other guys. So you could argue that it's been a little bit easier for him until you face a good pass rush in Minnesota. But overall, I don't think he's had a bad season by any means. I think he had one bad game and everything else was fine. All right, next question. From Tate Hutchinson asks, what role will Iffy play when he comes back? Will he get most of the nickel reps, and will they blitz him a lot like last year? Did we may have answered a question like this last week.
A little bit.
But listen, Iffy's one game closer to being eligible to coming back. He's one game away. All he theoretically has to miss is this Titans game, and then he's eligible to come back. I don't know, man. I'm kind of the belief that they've grown beyond that a little bit with Branch now being a full-time safety. I don't think they have plans to take Meek off or whoever's at nickel, whether it's Meek or whoever else, off the field. I think if he comes back, we're talking about a sub-package role that might amount to 5 to 10 snaps a game.
He's going to take Jalen Reeves-Maybin snaps, basically. Coverage linebacker type of stuff. He's not playing safety. I don't think he fits in the nickel concepts that they want unless Meek struggles and it's just they have to shift again and they want to move away from that corner body type in the slot and they want to go back to like a bigger body type in the slot.
Sure.
Again, this is right now, but like a guy who can live at the linebacker level and cover, like that's his best opportunity to get onto the field.
Right. The
hard part is they like their linebackers so much, like they're using 5 of them pretty consistently. I think he's closer to fighting with them for snaps than he is with the rest of the defensive backs.
I think
at least that's right. My thoughts right now.
And I think as we may have said in the past, like you have to realize if he hasn't practiced in almost 2 months now. So even when he's eligible to practice, it's going to take a couple of weeks. So we're we're probably talking about
a month.
I don't know, somewhere around Thanksgiving, as maybe a little bit before when he's going to be back on the field, and that's if he's ready. Like we have no idea where he's at, and I feel like every single time we ask Dan about it, it's just like, yeah, we'll see. The
thing is he's a unique weapon that you can utilize in a few different ways.
Yeah.
The problem is they've found out how to win without him.
Right.
And he can be a very valuable third safety. He can be a very valuable chess piece to put in situationally. Like you need those guys as well. So he can be an important piece for the stretch run, but like finding a consistent spot on the field is not going to be easy.
I think the newfound, not obsession, but interest in Iffy coming back is the direct result of the Aiden Hutchinson injury, right? Is Lions fans are trying to figure out their own ways to generate pressure with this defense, and you saw what Iffy did towards the end of last year, and like, okay, well, that's one option, and I don't think you're wrong. I don't think people are wrong in pointing there. Like that is certainly an option. I don't think the Lions linebacking core has been particularly good at blitzing over the last couple of weeks without Aiden Hutchinson. Especially against Minnesota. I thought it was very ineffective. I know Nowaski had a sack. I know Campbell and Malcolm technically had sacks, but those were very technical sacks, not the result of getting free on blitzes. It was more like, oh, Sam Darnold is running around like a chicken with his head caught off in the pocket, and you tackled him just before he got beyond the line of scrimmage. Those were not clean sacks. And so we did see a few clean sacks from Iffy. And yeah, that's possible. Like that, but to me, we're just talking about obvious passing downs with Iffy. We're talking about third and longs. We're talking about second and forevers. We're talking about towards the end of the game, a 2-minute drill where a team is trying to score at the end of the game. Instead of maybe Trevor Nowaski getting the game-winning sack, maybe it's Iffy Melifonwu. And that's where you're going to see him. I don't think there is this third safety role that's going to be a regular formation. I don't think he's going to replace anyone in the slot. I think it's just situational. We need a guy who can do a lot of different things, and if he can do a lot of different things.
So last game, they had the Vikings had 35 dropbacks. The Lions blitzed them on 20 of them. That's 58% or 57%. Okay.
Thank you for
correcting. Which is their highest of the year by far.
Yep.
They produced 15 pressures. Blitzing 20 times and creating 15 pressures in total for the whole game is not really the ratio that you're looking for, right? So for example, the Vikings had they blitzed about the same rate. It was like 56% of the time. Right. They had 21 pressures. So 60, and even then I think they would be disappointed that maybe they didn't get a little bit more as well. But they're closer. Like both teams got 4 sacks. They got more pressures, and the Lions, I think. So what's the lesson, right? Is the lesson, well, we're just going to have to blitz now because that's what we do in order to try and make up for pressures, and this is our way to do it? Or is it we tried to blitz and it wasn't working, so now let's back the blitz off and try and get pressure a different way, like with like stunts and different things? Like I don't know exactly what Aaron Glenn's going to take away from the Vikings game, but it's definitely food for thought because they blitzed a ton and the production really wasn't what you would probably hope it would have been.
Well, speaking of blitzing and the linebacking crew, next question here comes from Ash Soda. In fact, we're going to take back-to-back questions from Ash. It says, Nowaski done enough in the past few games to win the Sam role? I think he flashed really in that Seattle game first with a couple of big plays in a very limited 8-snap role. Maybe took a little bit of step back or wasn't as effective or obviously effective in the Dallas game when he had 29 snaps. This past week, he only has 14. But what I find interesting on the PFF breakdown is of those 14 snaps, 5 was in coverage, 5 was pass rush, 4 was run defense. Doing a little bit of everything, as we were just talking about. And he's one of the highest graded defenders on the team, had an 87.1 PFF grade, 76 in coverage, 73 in run defense. Pass rush was just okay, but obviously he had the game-sealing sack as well on a very well-timed, well-disguised blitz. So what are your thoughts on Nowaski getting a bigger role and maybe being this team's Sam moving forward?
My impression is he is the Sam. When they go to Sam, he's the guy. The rub here is they have shifted how they've used that third linebacker. Instead of it being whenever the third linebacker's on the field, it's a Sam, like this pass rushing Sam or guy that's on the line of scrimmage. Yes. Yeah, on the line of scrimmage Sam. That's what it used to. Whenever they had 3 linebackers, that was the role. Now they're using 3 linebackers off the ball about half the time, and the Sam about half the time. And so that off the ball third linebacker is sometimes covering the slot, sometimes matched up on a tight end. Sometimes they're blitzing. So most of the time they're using Jack, Malcolm, and Alex, right, as your 3 main guys. And Nowaski's coming in, at a much lesser rate in that Sam role, but I think it's because they've kind of reduced that role down. But make no mistake, when they want to shift to that Sam role, it's Nowoski's role.
Yep, I agree. All right, last question before we get out of here. I teased it before we went to break here. Again, this one also coming from Ash. It says, who should the Lions want to face more on Sunday? Will Levis or Mason Rudolph? So just to reset where things currently stand, Levis is dealing with a shoulder injury. He left 2 weeks ago mid-game, came back for the next game, was not playing well, so they started Mason Rudolph this past week. Last I heard, Levis is considered week to week, so we don't really have a good sense of where he's at this week. So I'll ask you, who is the better matchup for the Lions? Who would you rather the Lions face this week, Will Levis or Mason Rudolph?
All right, so if we look at them stylistically, Levis is a younger player who is currently dealing with the injury, like you mentioned.
Yep.
But he's got a bigger arm, and he can be a mobile quarterback who can tuck it and run if needed. Yes. Mason Rudolph is a pocket quarterback with more experience, who's not as accurate, but he is more successful, right? So he's more successful in gaining yards and moving the offense, yet he's a little bit more erratic and not as mobile. So for me, it's kind of like you could pick which one you like which one do you think you match up better against. And do you want the injured guy who may not be ready, or do you want the guy who's probably going to stay in the pocket? I would take the guy who stays in the pocket personally. I think Mason Rudolph was a backup for a reason. He's not mobile. To just look at, like, for example, Levis has run the ball 16 times for 106 yards, whereas Rudolph has run the ball 5 times for 13 yards, right? And so it's a big efficiency in being mobile out of the pocket is pretty stark difference between them. But then, like, Rudolph's completion percentage is lower. His touchdowns to interceptions is 1-to-1. Levis is actually worse. He has more interceptions than touchdowns. Yep. But he's so Rudolph's a little bit more consistent, I guess. But it's just, I mean, or he's a little bit more successful, I think is the right word. Is the word I'm looking for. But he doesn't have the arm that Levis does. So I'm going to take the guy that, maybe a little bit more wily, maybe able to get a completion or two, but doesn't have the physical talents that Levis does.
Yeah, our live audience is mostly all saying Will Levis, and I understand. So, like, he's gone viral several times this year for god-awful plays. And, I mean, listen, he has 7 interceptions in 125 passing attempts. That is terrible. His 5.6 interception percentage is not historically bad, but very bad. And, if you're a turnover-worthy play guy, 7 turnover-worthy plays, 4.4% is very, very high compared to Mason Rudolph's 2 turnover-worthy plays, which is only 3.0%. There is no question that Will Levis is the more erratic of the two. But I'm with you. He's also the more capable quarterback of making a big play, whether that's with his arm or with his feet. And listen, if the game is close, all it takes is 1 or 2 big plays, 1 or 2 mistakes from the Lions back end. Now, I get the temptation, too, of, like, wanting the rookie quarterback. The Lions like to mix up coverage and disguise coverages. They tricked Sam Darnold last week into an interception by mixing up their coverage and disguising their coverage, looking like a cover 1 when it was really a cover 2. Who's that going to affect more? It's going to affect Will Levis more than it is Mason Rudolph. There's no question about it. But Mason Rudolph is terrible. He's not even a backup. He should be a third stringer in the NFL. I think the Lions should want him. Hell, you want to get revenge on Mason Rudolph for the tie 2 years ago? Get revenge on that terrible Steelers game that no one ever wants to remember again. And yeah, the mobility part is probably what pushes it over the edge for me. Because Will Levis is not afraid to use his legs. Not the Lions are absolutely terrible at that anymore, but they're not great at it still. So I say, let's hope for Mason Rudolph. But I think maybe the bigger line here is the Lions are probably in good shape, no matter who it is, because this is going to be the worst quarterback they've faced this season by an extremely large margin.
Yards per attempt, Levis 5.6, Mason Rudolph 5.3. For perspective, Goff's is 9.3 per attempt.
Almost double.
Every time they throw the ball, Goff is throwing it 4 yards further, or getting four more yards out of his per attempt, more than either of the two Titans quarterbacks.
Yep. All right. I think we'll call it there. That's enough. A little taste of the Titans preview as we get ready for week 8. Hoping for the Lions to move to 6-1 on the season, but that'll do it for this show. A reminder, this was the last midweek mailbag of October that is going to be on the podcast feed. Next week will be a subscribers only show, which means if you are a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber, you can start emailing me questions. We will try to answer every single question that we get from Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers. And if you have an aching question that you want answered and you're not a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber, go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe, start a 7-day trial. That way you'll get in for the midweek mailbag, and if you like what you see, you stay. We'd love that. Either way, we appreciate every single one of you, whether you're a subscriber or just a dedicated listener. We appreciate all of you. And so until next time, I'm Jeremy. That's Erik. It's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right. Let's hang around with our live audience for a little bit here. Don't want to stay too late because it is almost 9:30 already, and I'm a sleepy boy, and I'm hoping that there isn't going to be a 10:30 news drop tonight, because most nights I'm not going to be awake at 10:30, but yesterday I was. Thank you, crappy Monday night football games.
The reason I bug-eyed when you said we'll answer every single question is because I'm imagining Nick the Greek sending in about 100 questions. No, I was up last night, but normally I fall asleep in my chair here watching football, but I decided to shut it down a little early, and I went into my bed to watch it, and because I was like, I had some money on a touchdown, on a Derrick Henry touchdown.
Did you get it?
Money. Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
I know that he had like an 80-yard run, but I know he didn't score on it.
Oh yeah, when he was running on that, I was like, "Oh, good, I get to go to bed." And then he got tackled, and I was like, "I don't get to go to bed." But yeah, I was in bed, which is rare. And then I had to get out because I'm like, I'm going to have to edit this thing because I'm like, I know Jeremy's already, when
you jumped in there, I was almost done.
Yeah, I know. It took me a minute because I didn't want to get out of bed. I was a sleepy guy too.
All right. I'm going to tell a story, and it's the most name-droppy story I'm ever going to tell. But because I think it's a very funny Derrick Henry story. So week 1 of the NFL, Chiefs, Ravens. I was hanging out with the Blevins family, which, if you don't know, it's Tyler Blevins, who's a ninja, a famous video game streamer. I've become friends with that family. They were in town to do a University of Michigan benefit and just hang out. And so we were at MGM, I think, watching the season opener. This is the other name drop, with Matt Leinart, which still is crazy to me that I was just like sitting watching football with Matt Leinart for a night. But anyways,
were you in a commercial?
It felt like it. But Tyler made the worst bet I have ever heard made with Matt Leinart, which was Derrick Henry is washed. He is not going to have 100 yards in a single game this season. And not only is the man, I'm sure, leading the league in rushing yards, probably by a pretty large margin, but he has had 100 rushing yards, I think, in 4 of 7 games so far. And when he made that bet, everyone's like, what are you doing? This is the Baltimore Ravens. All they do is run the football. They block really, really well. This is going to fail, and spectacularly, and lo and behold, it failed spectacularly. I just thought it was funny.
I had a little 4-player, 4-touch, each score a touchdown little four-way parlay that I managed to get.
You don't have to tell us how much you bet, but do you have an idea of like what the overall odds were? Did you like quadruple up?
10-1.
10-1. It's pretty good.
I had St. Brown. I'm like, he's going to score.
Mm-hmm.
He always scores. Saquon playing against the Jets or the Giants. I'm like, that's a gimme, right?
Yeah.
So
worked out.
Took some easy ones.
We're going to get a little in our own universe here with a question from Scoverse, who asked, genuine question, how did you guys get to where you are today? How small did you guys start? Or was it like a very big ball was already rolling when you guys started out? So I think we both had pretty different paths, but with some similarities here and there. I think the commonality is that we both just started to do this for fun. Back in 2008, I started writing on my own just because, like, hey, I was a very heavy Lions fan, a very passionate Lions fan, and the team sucked, and I needed someone to talk to about it. It's very much the, football fans would rather talk about Lions players than go to therapy. That's what that was. And so I started my own blog. I started writing in the Pride of Detroit fan post section. Just random stuff. And eventually I came up with On Paper that year. And so I kept writing On Paper previews in the Pride of Detroit fan post section. People started liking it. And then at some point, Sean Ewell, who is the founder of Pride of Detroit, the person who originally ran it, was like, hey, can I start putting these on the front page? Hey, do you want to just start writing for us for free? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. Like, that's awesome. I was a regular Pride of Detroit user, obviously. If I'm on the site and in the fan post section, I'm commenting often. Eventually I fire up a Twitter account and start talking Lions there. And then once I got my foot in the door at Pride of Detroit, I was like, awesome, this is fun. Let me do everything. Let me do film breakdowns. Let me talk about contracts. Let me talk about the rule book. Let me do this. Let me do that. And every now and then I would kind of get the reins of the site for a day. Sean really liked to go to opening day for University of Michigan. So that day usually coincided with cutdowns, like literally the exact same day. And so I was running the site on cutdown date, which is one of the most chaotic days of the NFL schedule. And so
yeah, terrible.
That was a good way to cut my teeth for breaking news. Eric, if you want to know why I'm so quick on that, those days probably had a lot to do with it. And so, I got one foot in the door, and the way I say is like, then I kicked the door down. Like I wasn't going to let that small opportunity go to waste. I turned it into a big opportunity so that when Sean stepped down in 2015, I was the top recommendation. And of course I said yes to that. And since then I've just put my head down, grinded, try to expand the Pride of Detroit community in as many directions as possible, whether it's YouTube or podcasts or live streaming or whatever. And the site has kind of exploded. The timing for me was extremely fortunate because the team started to get a little bit exciting around then, right? That was towards the end of Caldwell when the team was decent, not terrible. And then the site took a whole new level during the Dan Campbell era, which also coincided pretty much of Erik coming on board, where we just kind of became a behemoth. We got credentials and partial credentials in 2017, full credentials in 2018. And so all of that happening within a 2 to 3 year stretch just really exploded Pride of Detroit. And we are where we are because of all that. And so it wasn't a very normal path for this profession. I don't have a journalism degree. I'm not classically trained in writing in any sort of way, but I've been doing it now for 16 years. I've been writing in some facet for Lions football, so I think I've eventually figured out something that works. So the too long didn't read version of it is I started doing it on my own, creating what I liked to read, and then I turned a small opportunity into a big one by not letting it go to waste. Now you tell your story.
It's similar. Like I wrote a blog, not a blog, but like my own personal little like newsletter for my buddies. And when we had kids, my oldest has autism, and so we were trying to figure out what was going on with her when she was like 18 months. We were like, oh, she's delayed, and we were spending more money taking time off of work and finding sitters. And then we had our second kid, and it was like we weren't making enough money to support like me actually working. So I quit my job, and my wife was supporting us, and I was trying to give my kids what they needed. And about 6 months into that, my wife said, you need a hobby. And because you're just obsessed, because all the obsession that I have for the Lions, I just was pouring into my children. And so my wife was like, you need to do something else as well. And so I started writing for free. And I think what got my attention, or what got me attention, was I did things that were more non-traditional, stuff that I cared about. The way I looked at things was a little bit different.
Yep.
Depth charts, salary stuff, roster building. I used to do this thing called a roster stack, which I haven't done in years, but like I do it on on the other podcast. The roster stack, man, no one has done that. And that thing really is what helped me land that's what got me, I think, into the community. And then it just became opportunity and work ethic.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, when we had the chance to team up, I said, it's a perfect marriage, and I want to absolutely destroy everybody who wants to come up against us. That's why I look at, that's why when you start the podcast out by saying the best Lions podcast, and I'm like, yeah. And you're like, midweek. And I'm like, don't you dare say midweek. Because I want to be the best.
Listen, it's a crowded environment now. Like we got Detroit Football Network, we got Detroit, like all these like now official traditional media podcasts are popping up.
I welcome sharks in the water. I also don't care. I want to be, I said this when we joined together. I said, I want to be the best. I want us to be the best SB Nation site. That's where we are now, pretty much. I don't care if our numbers are a little bit lower than someone else's.
I will say this week our numbers are blowing everyone out of the water because of the Jabo story, because people like to read about Vikings, clowning Chris Christie.
I want to drag them into the deep water, and I want to drown everybody who wants to match up against us. Like, I don't care if it's a podcast. I don't care if it's another writing entity. I want to just destroy anybody who thinks that they can match what we do, because there is only one person that I have found that has the same work ethic that I do when it comes to this, and he's sharing
Justin
the screen
Rogers.
with me right now.
Oh.
No. Very good. That was good timing. Very good comedic timing right there.
Thank you.
But being able to bring my credential in and have both of us have access, and we will not be outworked. There's no one. There's no one. The beat can be a hard job, and there's a lot of guys I respect every single one of them. But any of these guys that are writing about the Lions and not in the room, right? Not in the room.
Sure.
I will not be outworked. And I know that you have that same mentality. And when you put two people that won't be outworked together, great. Good luck. We're going to, I'm going to, don't test me for PEDs. Okay.
Hey, there's nothing in the, Pro Football Writers of America that says I can't take Adderall, all right? No. No, the thing that you like, that I like that you said that also resonates with me is that I think both of us found a unique voice early on, a unique thing that wasn't being written. Like the reason I wrote on paper was because I think in general, preview columns are terrible. Like so many of them, like those graphics where it's like the Titans have the 29th ranked offense, the Lions have the 4th ranked offense. I'm like, why are you comparing those two? Those units don't go against each other. It's like, it's the whole like QB versus QB. Those guys aren't playing each other. What's more important is how is this passing offense versus passing defense? And there were no previews that were doing that were comparing those two units. I'm like, this is so elementary and it's not out there. How's no one doing that? And it just takes one little thing of finding what aren't people doing that should be out there. What is good information that's not being conveyed? And listen, the blogosphere looks way different now than it did 18 years ago, right? There are experts that do, like, it's the NFL media has become so compartmentalized that you can hire someone that is just your salary cap analyst. You can hire a guy that's just your film breakdown. Back in the day, I don't know about you, I was doing all those things. I was a multi-hyphenate where I still every now and then dip into like the film stuff because I love doing the film stuff. It's why sometimes every random Tuesday morning I'll be like, I'm just going to create 10 videos of cool plays that I saw and break them down because I miss doing that, but I just don't have the time to do it anymore.
Do you know how many articles that used to be staples for me that were part of my foundation of building my career that I don't do anymore? It's amazing to me because I have just tried to evolve myself into something else and I've passed those articles on to like other, like when I look back at like the articles that I did when I first started writing, I'm like, I don't even do that. I don't do like most of them anymore. Like I want to do a roster stack just for tomorrow. I want to do it right now just because I haven't written one in a while. Well, you know what we did was we evolved the way that we looked at the roster in the off season. Like you used to write a 53 and then I'd write a 53 and then I used to stack and then we now we blend them together and we try to give this like cohesive thought pattern between us. Like where do we differ? Where are the potential problems? And I think that that's a more elevated version of what we were doing independently. So
sure. All right.
Yeah.
We've gone too far down the line of just talking about our jobs and how awesome we are.
Mock draft machine. Nicholas wants a mock draft. Let's go.
Absolutely not. Comeback Trapper says, sadly, you guys will be replaced by AA bots like we all will.
Oh, geez. That's the hard part about this job is that
they just came for us.
You wrote an article that took you probably hours to write, and then you wrote one that probably took you 2 minutes to write. And the 2-minute article just destroyed.
Just almost did
the 2-hour article.
100,000 views compared to 10,000. 10 times.
Because the consumption of what people want or what people want to consume is changing, and the audience is changing. But I think at our core, we still write what we would want to read, and that may only be for the diehards, but I don't care.
Well,
that's who I write for.
That's why the subscription model, I think, is the future. Is why so many people are pivoting to, is because those are for the diehards, right? Those are the people that are willing to spend their hard-earned money for good quality content, and you have to find a way to tap into those people. And I think you have to have a unique voice. I think you have to know ball. I think you have to be creative in what kind of content you're giving, because listen, AI can write news articles way faster than anyone else can. And
sure,
I think they still have a long ways to go in their accuracy. Apparently AI was partially responsible for the reason why everyone thought there was a onside kick limit last night. That was a storyline. Like Someone
Missed
on
that.
Twitter was telling me this morning, and actually Peter Schrager got in my mentions because someone accused him of being the reason why everyone thought there was only a maximum of 2 onside kicks, and he's like, I didn't say that. I was the one that was actually saying it wasn't that. I'm like, I'm not involved in this. I was just like, this person said that the game was over last night because they had already used their 2 onside kicks. I'm like, that's not an actual rule. I don't know where you got that. Anyways, I think AI was partially responsible once I kind of went down that rabbit hole. Anyways, I got some alerts to get to. I don't want to talk about this anymore because it feels way too self-serving, and I don't know if anyone cares about this sort of stuff other than the person that asked, obviously. So let me get to some alerts.
List guest too.
Oh, right. Yes. And hopefully you're still around, McVay. Oh, yeah, you're right there.
He is.
Great White Kid, thank you for the follow. Lions Blood 39 months says Georgia Slitford Defensive Player of the Week. DJ Juan 11 months subscribed to the channel as well. We're caught up. Okay.
When Georgia came in at one point, she was walking in the room and she was like, I'm going to see Daddy. And I can hear her, and like, I'm sure you guys can't because the mic's worth the money, but she was walking in and Harper, like a kidnapper, like got behind her and put her arms and then hand like over the mouth and then, like pulled her out of the room.
Dang.
It was amazing.
You trained her well. What a good big sister. AP Durag, thank you for the 7 months. Says happy to watch you guys. It's been a hard couple months. Hey, hope everything's heading in the right direction there, AP. Yeah, we're here for y'all to just talk Lions football, which thankfully remains really freaking awesome. Like, can we just step back? And I know everyone gets all excited and worried and concerned, and we need to win a Super Bowl. Jameson Williams injuries, blah 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 blah. But like, this team is 5-1. For the first time in consecutive years since when, Erik? Since they were since they were Portsmouth, I think. Like, they put out a stat.
1934, yeah.
Yeah. Like, how blessed are we? That we get to experience back-to-back seasons in a way that hasn't happened in 90 years. 90. And we get to live through it, man. Like, this is unprecedented times for Detroit Lions football, and the thing we've been striving for decades upon decades. Like, I mean, how many times? It's not even just give me a Super Bowl. It's just give me a consistent winner. And this team is, I mean, what's their record since the 1-6 start in 2022?
Gosh,
they were 8-2 to finish that year. They went they were 11-6, or were they 12-5? 12-5, so add that together. 20-7 plus what? So 25-8. 25-8. 25-8.
27-9 if you count the playoffs.
That's crazy. The Detroit Lions are 25-8 in their last 33. Just never lose sight of that. I know expectations are extremely high, and we're all going to be disappointed if they don't get to the Super Bowl. But don't let us become the Patriots, where a 3-3 start has us running for the hills.
The best team in football right now. I don't care what a couple of those. No.
The Ravens made a pretty big case last night. I don't care if they've lost 2 games already. Well, I'm not saying their A are better. Listen, I wrote my whole Pride of Detroit Direct column this week was about the Lions being the best team in football. So, but I did write it before Monday Night Football.
Like every power ranker. The combination of what makes this team good. I don't know if there's another team that is quite. I mean, there's a couple teams that are going to be in the mix, and there's a couple teams that are going to be really big threats. But to have the level of coaching, the level of progress, the level of talent, the young guys getting better, the core guys, it's like all pro after all pro after all pro. You got guys at every level, guys at every position. Like there's really not weaknesses on offense. And it's like there's just so many things where in the past we would have been like, well, they got a really good wide receiver core. You know what I mean? And now we're like, yeah, they got a really good everything right now. And it's a joy to get to watch it. Like the confidence that I have in this team right now is
And the regime, right?
I expect them to win every game. I'm gonna go into every game thinking they're gonna win it. Like that's where I'm at with this team right now. The way that they're playing,
that's a strange feeling. Also, just like the confidence and like the assurance that the people in charge are the right people in charge, so that this is a long like they're in it for the long haul. This is not a 1 or 2 year flash in the pan. Hey, everyone, remember that 2-year stretch when the Lions were good? Like that's not what this is.
No, the extensions have already come pouring in, right? Like you're, and then it's just they have answers on top of answers on top of answers. There's not one way to win.
Yeah,
they can. Every team that they face, they have a way to beat you. Every team, every offense that they face, they have options to try and shut you down, and you're gonna get the better of them because it's the NFL and that's what happens. And you're gonna be weak in some points, but you're still going to have the opportunity to make game plans to make stuff happen. And so it's just, it seems like everything has kind of jumbled together and aligned for this, where I think last year we were looking at it like, are they really on a super? Could they really go to the Super Bowl? And I don't think we even believed it, even when they were doing it. Even when they were on their way. This year, it's like they look even better. And it looks like this is what a Super Bowl contender looks like. It's been,
and it's just
to watch it unfold over 3.5 years, going into to watch it all how it was built. It's unbelievable. It's exactly the way you want.
Yeah, it was exactly where it should have been every step of the way. They hit like every single benchmark, and you could argue they got. I mean, last year they got there early, right? It's kind of what you were saying.
Year before too, yeah.
But just year one was bad. It was supposed to be bad. You got you had the draft of the century, and it became clear by the end of year one that you did, because Amon-Ra and Panay were already playing at all pro levels at the end of their rookie season. You get to year two, a little scary at first. Some people, there were some people that were questioning some things, and then everything kicked into gear. You almost made the playoffs in year two, which is insane. And then year three, you're just like, okay, we're now a little bit better.
The draft was arguably as good in year three as it was in year one.
It's true.
Like I don't think we really realize
the question is, how do you get there again? Because you're not going to have the draft capital that you had in either of those drafts.
No, but you have to be comfortable with the fact of knowing that you didn't get Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, Kirby. You didn't you got all of those guys outside of the first round. It's not like Holmes can't identify, right?
No. It's just the amount. Because this year is a good example. They didn't have a ton of draft
to trade
capital.
Up and go get guys, right?
Yeah,
I know you don't like it, but I don't care. If you got a guy that you like, go get him. I get it. I get wanting to drift back and acquire more capital to make yourself more lucid and great, cool. But somebody asked earlier, is there an edge player in this class that is realistic for the Lions, that we should be looking at? There is a guy, but I think he's probably gonna be much earlier than pick 32. So you may have to move up to get him a little bit. They have basically said they want a guy who can be like Marcus Davenport, and there's a couple of guys like that. Michael Williams out of Georgia, been injured, so maybe his stock falls a little bit, but he's probably a middle of the first round type of guy.
Injured, you say? Brad Holmes is interested.
I know. But your top kind of edge guys that are going to go like in the top 10, they're not going to be in range to get that. But if a guy who is available like in the teens or early 20s, like late teens, early 20s, like Michael could be, like he's a guy stylistically that fits what they want. Like I know, like I was very interested in Jack Sawyer when I thought they were going to like really predominantly want that Sam because it's going to be such a fixture in their offense. But like the way that I've seen them adapt and the priority that I think they've put on their defensive line, it makes me think they're going to move towards those defensive line guys a little heavier. And so I'm starting to focus more there than I was at the Sam stuff.
How did you trick me into talking about the draft?
It didn't take much.
Seems like you just called me stupid.
No.
No.
You secretly like to talk about it because you secretly like to, as much as you want to fight the draft, you like thinking about how the team can get better. And in season, you like thinking about how the team can get better on a week-to-week basis with what they have. And then in the off season, you like how they get better, but you don't like talking about the what ifs because so many times in the off season, like 90% of what we talk about doesn't happen. So you think you don't like that wasted time, but at your core, you still improving the team is a big part of what you do, what you like.
Are you my therapist right now? What's happening?
I can tell you. I mean,
is a closet special team, Stan. Listen.
Ooh, there you go.
Special teams, special people. I may have asked Dave Phipp more questions this year than any other Lions coach. He's certainly going to get a lot of questions this week. I do think it's funny, though, that I had asked him about the whole, like, field goal strategy of holding down the long snapper and leaping over.
Mm-hmm.
And
then it shows up.
And then they tried to do it to the Lions. And I do agree with a lot of people who said that looked a lot like leverage, which isn't allowed, where he's actually, like, putting his hands down while he's leaping, which is definitely still not allowed. You are allowed to leap if you're on the line. You're not getting a running start, but you can't leverage your way up.
Did you watch Sunday night?
No, did they do it too?
They got called for even less contact.
Oh.
He like barely brushed him as he was coming over. He like just brushed him, and they called that leverage. And even the in the booth ref was like, yeah, that's not leverage. He might have glanced him, but it was less leverage than what we saw in the Lions game, and that one got flagged.
I bet if it would have been the ESPN broadcast, whoever their rules guy is, he would have agreed with the call because he's a shill. Like it. I don't who. Do you know who the ESPN guy is? Because
no,
he makes me mad. Because I feel like he agrees with every single call, and all the other ones are actually good at it. Like the NBC's guy is good at the Fox. I mean, I know people don't like what's his name from Fox. Vernon's guy. What's his name? Blandino.
There you
go. I think Blandino actually does a pretty good job. G-Man, they give you the 9-month subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you. Russell Yerk? I don't know who that is. That's not who I thought it was going to be. All right, we're pushing 10 o'clock here, so let's get McVay Rob's list cast if you're still around, McVay. Did he already name it? I can't remember now. Let me scroll up. McVay, did you say what we doing? Man, there's a couple good questions here, but it's getting late. Is that a new guy then, John? It sounds like that's a new guy. Maybe I'm thinking of a previously old guy. Give you a choice of two. Top 5 quarterbacks right now if Goff is number 1, or top 5 Halloween candies. You got a preference?
Well, I feel like we did Halloween candies a year ago, and I got shamed for it, but I don't care.
Well, okay. Let's not do that, but tell me which one you got shamed for. What's your hottest Halloween candy?
In my top 5, in my top 5 was Almond Joy, and everyone yelled at me for that one.
Okay.
Because I like Almond Joy.
I thought it was gonna be Werther's because I do know you like Werther's too. He's got a drawer of them. Someone said dots and I defended them. Kronos, terrible. Dots are top 5? No way. No.
So my number 1 was Mars Bar, because I like the like the nougaty, soft, like Three Musketeers type filling, but I also like caramel. So, and people didn't like that either.
I'm trying to think of my top, like if I was back in my trick or treating days, what would I want the most? What would I be most excited about? And I think the Snickers is always number 1. Snickers to me is the perfect candy bar. It will never get any better than just a classic Snickers. Don't mess around with the formula and give me a peanut butter Snickers. No, just give me a Snickers. I always get excited for Crunch Bars too, or anything that's like has the Krispies in it. You know, you want to throw $100,000 in there and throw some caramel in it. Great, cool.
Do you like $100,000?
The Take 5s are pretty good. I dig a Take 5.
I do like the York peppermint patties. Those are really good too.
I'll take a Twix.
I like to, and peppermint and caramel. That's if you can get peppermint in there, you can get caramel in there. Not together, but like those are like,
yeah.
I love those combos.
I don't think I get that excited about any, like I'm a chocolate guy kind of more through and through. Like I love Sour Patch Kids and gummy bears are great, but I get more excited for almost every other chocolate thing. So I know this wasn't supposed to be a Halloween candy one. We were going to do the other one, but I'm at 4, so let me get a 5th in there. What do I want though?
We can do the quarterback one.
No, let's go peanut M&Ms. Peanut M&Ms. I think I need with my candy bars, this is what I prefer. Chocolate, a mixture of sweet and salty, and some sort of texture. So like Snickers checks all those boxes. You got the chocolate, you got the sweet and the salty with the peanuts. The peanuts also provide the texture. Same with Twix. The caramel brings the salt. If a candy bar has those 3 aspects, sweet, salty, chocolate, and texture, you win. You win.
I don't know if there's a candy bar that I dislike that has caramel in it.
Sure.
That's the best.
I see some Milk Duds talking in the chat. Do you have an opinion on Milk Duds?
It has caramel.
It
I'll
does.
Eat it. I like it.
But the chocolate is
a little
terrible.
They're a little bit too sticky.
The texture is a little
very
much.
Yeah, it's and they stick to you a little too hard.
Yeah.
When you get old and have jacked up teeth, then you have to you have to be careful.
I don't know what Coffee Crisp is, John. No.
I do love $100,000 though. Those
yeah. It's a very good candy bar.
Very underrated.
Those Krispies. I love the little Krispies. All right, what was the other one we were going to? Oh,
which candy bar do you freeze?
None.
What?
Some people
I'll freeze a handful of them, and
some people freeze the Snickers, but I'm like, that ruins the texture.
Yeah, it makes the caramel like
brittle.
Yeah,
that's terrible. I used to do that, and like
best candy bar to freeze. Three Musketeers. Pretty good.
I don't get it. Why are you?
I have not.
You know what freezing candy bars is? You're acting as God. Eat the candy bar as God intended.
No,
room temperature
is if you freeze it and then
we didn't even mention Reese's. Jesus.
Well, I think that's a staple. But if you freeze the Three Musketeers and you then take it out for like 5 minutes, it's still solid, but it becomes a little bit chewy, almost like taffy like. So that Three Musketeers like nougat with that becomes almost like a taffy. With it's really elevates the Three Musketeers.
The only thing I refrigerate that is in this category, and I've said this a couple times on the podcast, refrigerate mint Oreos. It just adds a little bit more. Because I think like mint.
Anytime you freeze any mint, mint that you put in a
Yes.
freezer is fantastic. It comes out because it sparks.
Correct.
Like it
Right.
pops
That's why
a little
Thin
bit.
Mints, right? People do it with that too.
Sure.
But just refrigerate. It doesn't have to be even freeze. Refrigerate a mint Oreo.
Okay.
Mm.
Do you know
That
do you know what I like to freeze? Thin Mints, Girl Scout Thin
That's
Mints.
what I said. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said. I was thinking you were talking about the other one, not the cookie. You were the candy. I thought you were still talking candy. Junior Mints. That's what I thought you were talking about. Not the
Junior
Thin Mints.
Except for you.
Peppermint.
Yeah, but again, like the chocolate is so
I love.
weird and waxy.
I love peppermint. Okay, again, you can. The bitterness of some of those chocolates, like what was the one we
I
were talking
come
about?
for football. I leave with diabetes.
Do you know that when I like in the wintertime, like when we hit December, I start throwing candy canes in my coffee. Like to add a little mint kick to
Dude,
it. I love it.
I'm with you. Like I'm not
all the
trying
time,
to,
but I like adding it.
I like mint. I like mint chocolate chip. To me is an elite ice cream flavor. I love the little Andes candies, but I don't know, for some reason, like the peppermint patties, the I don't know, when it's just like so heavily concentrated mint, it's just like, this isn't quality mint. There isn't anything like cutting the mint flavor a little bit. I need that mint flavor cut with something else.
All right,
And that
well,
chocolate isn't bringing any flavor when it's a York peppermint patty.
So my wife knows I like mint chocolate chip quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what she got it combined with for me for the other day? Whiskey.
Oh,
And so we did it's Halloween spooky walks and all that jazz, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she bought me a little mint chocolate chip flavored whiskey, and I just put a little bit in like a little flask, a little to go flask, and then go out walking with the kids out on Halloween. You got the little flask of it's
I was wondering, I didn't know if that was going to go in some coffee or maybe some hot chocolate.
It absolutely could go in like if you're like I want to do like an after dinner type thing, and it could add a little twist to it.
An aperitif?
It's
That's not what an aperitif is.
It's pretty cool.
Ooh, yeah, the
tried
Ghirardelli peppermint. My mom is a big fan of those, and she always has them stocked during the holidays. So I'm a fan.
Your mom's a smart lady.
You met my mom the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the first time, right?
I think so. Yes, I will go with yes.
So did anyone who came to our Pride of Detroit party. Would have met my mom. All right. Do you want to do top 5 quarterbacks right now? As in top 5 quarterbacks in how they are playing right now. That's how I want to make my list. So like
you're not like
Aaron Rodgers.
I like this guy for the future. Oh, Aaron Rodgers wouldn't make it in the top 5 anyways.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about top 5 quarterbacks in terms of ever that are currently active, he would have to be on your list and probably number 1. Correct?
No.
Yeah, okay, I won't get you to admit it, even though you do think the answer is yes. I want to top 5 quarterbacks in the way they are playing right now, and let's just say for fun, Jared Goff has to be number 1 because I think that's how the question was asked.
Okay. Number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Do we go back and forth, or do we each have our?
Well,
each pick
number
our
2 should be the same for both of us. I would hope. Lamar Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me look at some stats because I need that to help me.
I guess Mahomes would be 3.
He's not playing that well right now. Doesn't he have
He's not, but
he
he's
leads the league in interceptions, right? He does.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
He's tied with Jordan Love and Gardner Minshew with 8 interceptions.
More interceptions than touchdowns. Look at him.
Is it possible to have a top 5 quarterback list in the way they're playing right now without Patrick Mahomes?
I don't think so, because the team's 5-0. He's got them in the right spots. He makes plays. Of course, the refs give him every benefit in the entire world, but whatever.
I'm going to have him on my list, but I'm going to make him number 5.
All right, fine.
I'm
If
gonna
you want to
punish
keep him
him.
at 5, I don't care.
This is actually kind of hard though, because like I'm looking right now, and I'm going to have a hard time keeping Jaden Daniels off my top 5.
Yeah. The trick is it really depends on what you qualify as what do you prioritize in a quarterback? Like
Yeah.
if you're prioritizing efficiency or completion percentage, he's top guy in the league, right?
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit ahead of Jared.
You know what? I've decided. I've looked at the list and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to think about this anymore. Jared Goff,
Okay.
Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Oh crap!
Jaden Daniels or Mahomes? Which one?
But now I kind of want to sneak Baker into the list, but I'm not going to. I can't. Patrick Mahomes, Jaden Daniels.
Okay. I might sub out Jaden Daniels for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Perfect passer rating.
Stop it.
1 for 1. Touchdown. It's pretty awesome. He's really good. I don't know if you've seen him play or not.
Oh man, I don't. Yeah, Burrow's not.
He's got
Burrow doing?
he's got
Is
awful.
Burrow garbage right now.
No, he's got good. They're just not
He's
winning.
8th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stats are okay. Actually, pretty.
I
good.
think I would.
His passer rating is
if
third.
we're talking right now, I'd probably be in that same boat. The only one I would consider instead of Jaden Daniels is C.J. Stroud.
God, yeah. He's just not.
But
off
I'm
to
a
quite the
Josh
start.
Allen stan.
I am too.
Josh
I understand like he can be a little bit reckless with the football sometimes and turn the ball
Absolutely
over.
can.
But you take that with the plays that he makes, that he creates
Yes.
out of nothing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would put C.J. Stroud in there
Over Jaden.
over Jaden. Yeah.
That's fair.
I understand Jaden is playing really well though. I acknowledge that for sure.
All right, we are officially over the 10 o'clock mark, which means it's time to get out of here. We've been live almost 2.5 hours, which, considering all the work that we do, maybe it could be spent a little more wiser in terms of creating content for the website. But we do this because we love it, because we love hanging out with you guys. And so we always appreciate you guys giving us the platform and
one
giving
article
us an
out of
audience. We do. That is true. Assuming I can pull the audio quick enough, send it over to Chris, and he can have it up in the morning. But anyways, like I always try to express, we really do appreciate you guys, because this is one of the highlights of my week. And not only get to spend it talking ball with Erik, but with all you guys. And so appreciate you guys making it out here. Sorry we've been a little erratic in our schedules for doing these, but they're fun. Movember schedule, I'm making some final decisions this week, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to reveal to you guys until it's literally Movember, but the ball is rolling on several different things. There's so much to take care of. There's so many things that are going to be a little bit different this year, but things are moving behind the scenes. The one thing I will say too is a lot of the things that you guys earned last year, Hot Ones stream, karaoke stream, me jumping in an ice bath, Chris's dinner stream, all those things we're going to make sure are going to happen during this Movember, so that we keep our word on our end when it comes to that sort of stuff. So that's all coming in just over a week. I think when's the first day? Friday. Oh, that's unfortunate. So I guess the first Movember stream is going to be that Saturday Madden Sim. Overall stream, I have overalls in the other room. So I have those. Man, I thought it came out on Thursday, so we were going to do maybe First Bite, but nope. So yeah, our first Movember official Movember stream will be Saturday the 2nd for the Man Sim. The Lions, what is that? It's gonna be the Lions Packers Man Sim, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that'll be the first one. Then we'll do a Movember post game show that might come that night because it's a 4:30 game, unfortunately. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
such a weird Fox, those bastards.
yeah, making us the game of the week again. More Tom Brady, I'm assuming, that week. For better or for worse. If he still has his job, I don't know if he's allowed to like talk to the other teams anymore.
No, he's not.
I thought maybe
He's literally not.
I thought they fixed that or something. I don't know.
Oh, they did?
I don't know. Anyways, we got to get out of here. Appreciate y'all. We'll be back. Next live stream will be, I think, the Purview podcast, which usually is going to be coming on Thursday nights, and then I'll be live for the Man Sim on Saturday. And then because this is a 1:00 game, right? We finally got another 1:00, so we'll be live Sunday night as well in the Lions-Titans recap. Starting it all over the next week. So until then, appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon.